covering the islands of the Bahamas. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
The following portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
A big step for manufacturers as they get to save a whole lot of money. Good evening, I'm Opal Roach and this is The Bahamas Tonight. Local manufacturers are welcoming the move to eliminate certain custom fees, saying this will help them to save big bucks and offer more jobs. This comes by way of amendments to the Industries Encouragement Act, which, according to the Financial Services Minister, reverses a failed economic strategy and what he calls a bad decision by the former administration. Janae Noel Ferguson tells us that this step also paves the way for industrial development across the country.
Andrew Rogers runs Nassau Glass and Bahamas Aluminum and is just one of the estimated 150 manufacturers in the country that stand to benefit from amendments to the Industries Encouragement Act. Rogers says the decision by the former administration to impose customs duties on their imports and 10% on raw material and equipment bruised businesses.
This is a very big step for us. We tried to explain to the former administration what this 10% meant, this 5-year moratorium, which affected myself and many other Bahamian industries that have been around for a long time. It was very detrimental to us. It really hurt us. It hurt employment. I personally had to relieve staff of their jobs.
Rogers, who is also the chairman of the Manufacturing Association, says the amendments amount to significant savings.
So in every $1 million, I had to pay $50,000 in taxes that's now going to remain in the company. That's a lot of money for every millions of dollars that you have in your sales. I mean, if you're doing $4 million, that's $200,000. $200,000 is a lot of money to remain in a company for further expenditure.
Bahamian manufacturing companies can look forward to significant savings thanks to the removal of customs duties. According to Minister of Financial Services, Mr. Ryan Pinder, the benefits will include expanded businesses and more job opportunities.
The consensus of the manufacturing community is that 10% will be reinvested back into their company for expanded growth, for more efficient operations, which will create more employment and more revenues for those industries, which will create more business license fees and other indirect taxes that those manufacturers pay. So the philosophy is that we believe that with those necessary incentives for growth of business, that the revenues of the government may actually grow and likely will grow as companies grow.
Customs Controller Charles Turner says the duty manufacturers used to pay was a sizable amount of the incoming revenue. He now advises where persons would be able to clear their items.
The area of the Customs Department where these goods in Nassau, where these goods would be exempt, is the aided industry section. And so the importer of the raw material is to submit its customs entry there, where it would be approved by the officers in that section. Following that, the entries are forwarded to the entry check-in, where it is checked.
And now, because of the amendments, Rogers, like many other manufacturers, will be able to rehire staff and expand his business. Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS News Network.
Now, the high electricity rate also drives up manufacturing cost. The Manufacturers Association chairman shares his suggestion on how government can ease that burden for those in the industry.
I know of a number of companies that are manufacturing in our country where the electricity rate is 8% of their gross sales. That is phenomenal. When you consider the labor cost in a company averages about 25%, if 8% is going to electricity, I mean, you could just imagine how much it would benefit a company by giving them a competitive electrical rate where the funds, massive funds, would remain in the country and allow them to expand.
Well, the Financial Services Minister says they continue to look at ways to bring down the high energy cost.
Mr. Rogers brings up a interesting suggestion on a multi-tiered rate. But we've had some initial conversations with my colleague minister on how, from a manufacturing point of view and from an energy point of view, we can work together. I look forward to having my colleague minister participate in our symposium we will have with manufacturers towards the end of the year. He has also asked that I compile as comprehensive a list as possible of manufacturers so he could also do some consultation with those manufacturers, because different manufacturers might be able to utilize different options within their businesses, whether it be self-generation or whether a multi-tiered rate or some other program might benefit them. So he's looking to also do a assessment, if you can say that, of the usage of the different manufacturers to see what type of flexible options are available to each kind of sector within manufacturing.
Shifting gears now, yesterday's headline in the local Daily read, accusations of racial slurs, torn notices, and tenants in fear, all attributed to the Deputy House Speaker. Well, today he's speaking out, defending himself. Carla Palmer tells us that those allegations stem from the building where he lives.
With his attorney on one side and his wife on the other, Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly, the Honorable Dion Smith, defended his character while refuting claims of assault and statements of a racist nature he's alleged to have made recently at a condominium on East Bay Street. The article was headlined in the Tribune on Wednesday.
Today I seek to invoke the truth, because this very headline of the story is most misleading. I, Dion D. Smith, outright deny all allegations made against me on pages 1 and 3 of yesterday's Tribune. I did not direct any comments towards any residents at the pilot house. In fact, the plaintiffs in the action referred to are of the view that members of the association treat and talk to some residents different from others based on race. I say for the record that I am not a racist, and I have no problem with foreigners or Caucasians, as I am happily married to a non-Bahamian, and my son godfather is also a Caucasian. That is why this statement to me is laughable.
Mr. Smith is reportedly a resident at the facility. The property, he explained, his family initially owned and is sold to developers.
The story goes on to say that there was an attack on a security guard, and it suggested that I was being denied access to the premise. In fact, I, along with 2 friends, one who has a disability, were denied the right to leave the property, despite telling the guard that this was false imprisonment. Therefore, it is our claim that we were falsely imprisoned and assaulted when trying to leave the property. I did report the same to the police. I am a young Bahamian who entered frontline politics to be of service to my country. I was elected to Parliament and then elected to the post of Deputy Speaker. I take these responsibilities very serious. I will not permit a rag sheet like the Tribune to distract me.
According to Mr. Smith, he has every intention of returning to the House of Assembly and performing his duties there, in spite of calls for his resignation. Attorney Wayne Monroe.
If it is said that because you are sued, you should resign, tomorrow I will file an action against Hubert Minnis, and I hope he resigns. The day after that, I will file an action against, and they don't have to have any merit, against anyone, and they have to resign. See how ridiculous that is?
I today paused long enough only to satisfy the public and my constituents that these allegations are untrue. After this press conference, I returned to the people's business and to nation building.
There is, however, a case management hearing set for December where a trial date is to be scheduled. Carla Palmer, ZNS News.
Well, the Progressive Liberal Party issuing a statement following the Free National Movement leaders' call for the resignation of Deputy House Speaker Dion Smith. It comes amidst allegations raised in a Supreme Court case. In its statement this afternoon, the PLP questioned the opposition's silence following claims by former Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Cheryl Grant Bethel concerning what she characterized as, quote, verbal abuse from the then Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Ingram, end quote. The PLP said Dr. Hewitt Minnis did not think it was unbecoming for the former Prime Minister to retain his position with such divisive claims hanging over his head, as he now seems to think about Mr. Smith. Now, according to the statement, the PLP claimed that Dr. Minnis is, quote, demonstrating the classic traits of a double-minded flip-flopper who does not believe his own words, end quote, but agreed with the F&M leader that for this country to move forward, we should move beyond these racial divides. Well, government may have to even spend more money to complete those roadworks, which have already swallowed up millions in cost overruns. The nation's Deputy Prime Minister making the announcement today, saying that an assessment will be done at the end of the project. But as Andrew Knowles tells us, depending on the outcome, taxpayers may have to dish out a bit more.
Once completed, the troubled New Providence Road Improvement Project is projected to cost some $200 million. Deputy Prime Minister and Works Minister Philip Davis maintains that the roadworks will be completed by October 31st and expects that the project will be turned over to the government by the end of January 2013 at the latest.
In the meantime, there will also thereafter be what I call a defect liability period, when we're assessing the roadworks, having a study done to determine whether or not any alteration or changes ought to be made to the road.
And depending on the outcome of the study, more money could be needed to facilitate any changes or adjustments to suit the needs of the traveling public. Mr. Davis said he wouldn't be able to determine how much money would be needed until after the assessment is completed.
There are a lot of complaints already about the design of the roads, and hopefully, if those complaints persist, and after collaboration with road users, the neighbors which are impacted by these roads, the businesses, and after having their input into it going forward, we'll decide whether we have to or not make the corrections that's necessary to make the experience more pleasant for those stakeholders.
Just last week, the Inter-American Development Bank approved $65 million in supplementary financing for the road improvement project. This was done in order to replenish the depleted civil works budget in order to complete the works on numerous road corridors.
The loan process did not impact the progress of the work. We should be in a position to deal with the funding by the middle of next month, end of October.
Andrew Knowles, ZNS News Network.
Director of Public Prosecutions Vanette Graham-Allen defending government's Swift Justice Initiative. It's designed to strengthen the relationship and communication between relevant agencies like the Attorney General's Office, the police force, prison system, and social services so that justice can be swift. The DPP says currently a review is underway of criminal and civil cases.
When we audit all the cases that we have, we will be able to give you full details as it relates to how many persons have been convicted, how many persons are on bail, how many other process has been entered, and whatever information you would require, we'll be able to give you that. It is anticipated that the audit will come to an end by the end of this year.
Director of Legal Affairs Deborah Fraser says swift justice also impacts the civil side of the court.
The introduction of the integrated justice system and a proper document tracking system, we will ensure that all requests, be they within the Bahamas or outside the Bahamas, are dealt with in a timely manner. So basically, we are adopting the principle of swift justice, similar to what has been done on the criminal side.
Now, persons hoping to have their trade disputes heard by the Industrial Tribunal will soon have to go to a different location. Corinne Carey tells us why.
With construction continuing on the Ann Sparker building here in Bank Lane, efforts are also underway to ensure that judges and support staff who work in other branches of the legal system are being properly accommodated. In this vein, Permanent Secretary at the Office of the Attorney General, Archie Nen, says plans are underway to relocate staff working at the Industrial Tribunal on Thompson Boulevard.
They will very soon, at long last, be relocated from the Monument Plaza, where they are now, to Safri Square. and that will take place very shortly.
Nan says the move is necessary to address a number of ongoing concerns.
They have had a number of issues as it relates to the Monument Plaza. In fact, just last week, we had an issue there where there was a small fire. Fortunately, no one was hurt, and we suffered no major damage to our files and to the building. So they will now, at long last, be moved to Safari Square. Very comfortable, very functional area.
Meantime, the Registrar General's Department plays a pivotal role in national development by registering births, deaths, and marriages, among other things. As a result, Nan says staff there will get additional space to perform their duties more efficiently.
We have just been given the go-ahead, Attorney General, for additional space in that building, number 50 Shirley Street. And you'll be hearing a little more about the various programs that will be implemented very shortly and how the space there will be utilized.
Meantime, Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson says the protection of witnesses is also a priority.
Re-implementation of the Witness Protection Program. This combined with the implementation of the law relating to witness anonymity has made a significant difference in the ability for us to bring matters onto trial and to have witnesses give evidence in circumstances where witnesses to matters have been murdered.
For ZNS News Network, I'm Fern Carey.
And coming up, find out why you should care about an upcoming ball. That and more in a moment.